This week on Football Daily, we're looking at 10 of the worst tactical disasters we've witnessed in recent memory. From desperate substitutions to hideous formations, we will always remember when these managers got it wrong. Let's go. 10. Scholes on the Wing. Sven-Göran Eriksson's England squad was stuffed with world-class talent, from Rio Ferdinand and Ashley Cole in defence to Wayne Rooney and Michael Owen in attack. But it was in central midfield that they reigned supreme, with Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard and Paul Scholes all competing for the two slots within England's 4-4-2 formation. Eriksson's answer to this conundrum was to play Scholes at left wing, a tactical decision which in retrospect caused more harm than good. The Manchester United star had been first choice at centre mid for the 2002 World Cup, but was pushed wide in the run-up to Euro 2004. He played there for the last 5 matches of his international career, before abruptly retiring in August 2004, citing a desire to spend more time with his family. He was just 29. Lampard and Gerrard never appeared truly comfortable next to each other, as the Three Lions Golden Generation suffered successive penalty defeats to Portugal in 2004 and 2006, before failing to qualify for Euro 2008 altogether. Steve McLaren and Fabio Capello both tried to lure Scholes out of retirement for future campaigns, but he refused. The result is England lost out on one of the greatest players of his generation in the prime of his career. 9. Pep's UCL problem. For all his genius, some of Pep Guardiola's tactical decisions in the Champions League have been singled out for scrutiny. None more so than in the 2021 final, when he deployed Manchester City against Chelsea without a recognised central defensive midfielder. Rodri and Fernandinho were benched, as Guardiola opted for an attacking midfield featuring Silva, Ilkay Gundogan and Phil Foden, with Kevin De Bruyne playing as a false 9. Against most sides, this may have worked, but Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel had become a stubborn unit who were electric in transition. City couldn't break through the Blues' well-drilled defence, managing just a single shot on target in the entire game. And their own misbalanced midfield was exposed when Mason Mount found space to release Kai Havertz to score the match-winning goal. Had Guardiola stuck to his winning formula by including a defensive midfielder, the chances are the Sky Blues would have stunted Chelsea's work on the break. The Londoners ran out deserved winners, while City missed an excellent opportunity to capture that all-important Champions League trophy. 8. Defensive Argentina. At the 2006 World Cup, Argentina had a golden opportunity to reach the semi-finals. Under the guidance of Jose Pekerman, the South Americans had set alight the tournament, beating Cote d'Ivoire before drumming Serbia and Montenegro 6-0, then defeating Mexico in the last 16. The host nations Germany were up next. Le Albiceleste was awash with talent, with Juan Roman Riquelme in particular at the peak of his powers. Sure enough, they were more than a match for Die Mannschaft, and took the lead after 49 minutes through Roberto Ayala. And even with the Germans chasing the game, they remained in control. But after 70 minutes, Pekerman made 2 substitutions many believe lost Argentina the match. Riquelme was withdrawn for the defensive-minded Esteban Cambiasso, and Hernan Crespo switched for Julio Cruz. Riquelme had been instrumental in keeping the Germans on the back foot, and without him the tide immediately turned in the opposition's favour. Miroslav Klose equalised on the 80th minute and the game went to penalties. In an ironic twist, Cambiasso would miss his spot kick alongside Ayala to dump Argentina out of the tournament. Pekerman would never manage his country again. 7. Costly Diego Costa. Diego Simeone has very rarely got it wrong as manager of Atletico Madrid. El Cholo has inspired Los Rojiblancos to 2 La Liga titles, 2 Europa Leagues and 2 Champions League finals during his 10 years in charge. But it was during the 2014 UCL showpiece event against Real Madrid he arguably made his biggest blunder on the touchline. Simeone decided to start Diego Costa. On paper, the Spaniard's inclusion made sense. He'd scored 27 times during Atletico's successful league campaign and found the net 8 times in Europe. The only problem is he arrived in Lisbon with a significant hamstring injury. Simeone has since defended his decision by calling Costa Atletico's Messi, adding that even getting 45 minutes from his best player was a risk worth taking. But he only lasted 8 before being forced off. Had it not been for an iconic Sergio Ramos header in the dying moments, Los Colchoneros would have won. But in extra time, Atletico's lack of options off the bench took their toll and Real Madrid ran out 4-1 victors. Simeone claims he wouldn't change anything given the chance, but his choice of Costa clearly handicapped his side on the biggest stage of all. 6. Ronaldo's collapse. The final of the 1998 World Cup was set to be a scorcher, with the host nation France taking on a Ronaldo-inspired Brazil for the Jules Rimet trophy. O Fenomeno was in the form of his life, arriving at the tournament off a 34-goal debut season for Inter Milan and netting 4 times prior to the final in the competition proper. Stopping the 21-year-old would be key to any French victory, but their job was made easier after Ronaldo suffered a fit the night before the match. Originally, Brazil's coach Mario Zagallo dropped the Interstar to the bench in place of Edmundo, but Ronaldo insisted he was fine following a doctor's examination, and he was put back into the side just 72 minutes before kickoff. His reinstatement has been the subject of many conspiracy theories since, with Edmundo later claiming sports giants Nike heavily influenced the decision. But in retrospect, Zagallo made the wrong call. Ronaldo was clearly not himself, a fact the player has admitted since, and offered very little as France ran out 3-0 winners in the Stade de France. Had Zagallo sacrificed the former Barcelona star for the good of the team, there is every chance the World Cup would have headed back to South America. 5. Henry on the wing. Considering the incredible career Carlo Ancelotti has enjoyed on the touchline, it's interesting to hear that the Italian's biggest regret was reportedly playing Thierry Henry out of position during his tenure in charge of Juventus. Ancelotti managed the old lady for almost 2.5 years up to June 2001 and briefly presided over the growth of a young Henry. The iconic French forward had signed for Juventus in the summer of 1999, having shone during a 5-year spell with Monaco. But he failed to adapt to life in Italy, first under Marcello Lippi and then Ancelotti. Forced to play on the left and at times at wing-back, he would only ever score 3 times in 20 appearances for the Bianconeri, before leaving for Arsenal after just 1 season, having fallen out with the club's director, Luciano Moggi. But it could have all been so different had Ancelotti recognised his potential, a fact both the player and Ancelotti has conceded. The Italian later revealed, "I didn't think I could play Henry down the middle. He never told me he could." Arsene Wenger didn't make the same mistake. With the Gunners, he quickly promoted the World Cup winner to centre-forward, and the rest is history. 4. Cautious Craig Levein. Prior to Steve Clarke's ascent to the Scotland dugout, the Tartan Army had to endure a dark age of trial and error when it came to finding the right manager for the job. Gordon Strachan, Alex McLeish and George Burley all came and went during a difficult 10-year spell, though none of them stick out quite like Craig Levein. The former Dundee United boss was in charge of Scotland between 2009 and 2012, and will always be remembered for his tactics away to Czech Republic in a crucial Euros qualifier. Following an unconvincing draw against Lithuania and a narrow victory over Liechtenstein, Levein opted to play an ultra-defensive 4-6-0 formation away to Czech Republic, inspired by a Rubin Kazan performance he'd witnessed against Barcelona. But his plan horribly backfired, as Thomas Rosicky inspired the Czechs to a 1-0 victory. Levein was subsequently bombarded with criticism, setting the tone for the rest of his Scotland career. Years later, he defended his tactics, arguing, "I'm not being funny, but we weren't a good team. Even so, let's hope we never see a 4-6-0 on the pitch ever again." 3. Kane on corners. Cast your mind back to Roy Hodgson's England era and it's impossible not to recall Harry Kane taking corners against Iceland at Euro 2016. It was the defining image from Hodgson's final game in charge, as the Three Lions fell to one of their worst ever defeats. A young Kane was fresh off his most prolific season yet, having scored 25 times in 38 appearances for Tottenham Hotspur, and for his country he was beginning to show his credentials too, netting 3 times in qualification for the Euros. Yet, as England chased a dismal 2-1 deficit against the Scandinavian minnows in the last 16, the 23-year-old routinely found himself stuck on corners. Hodgson's assistant Gary Neville later revealed on Sky Sports that Kane was simply far above everyone else when it came to set-piece delivery, despite the presence of Raheem Sterling and Wayne Rooney in the squad, and England didn't lose because of that decision. But after what had been a miserable tournament for the Three Lions, it was a tactic too far for even the most lenient England fan to accept. 2. Stunted Scolari. Luis Felipe Scolari may have captured Brazil's 5th World Cup in 2002, but he will always be remembered for presiding over the Seleção's worst ever result, their 7-1 implosion against Germany in 2014. Back in the World Cup semi-finals and playing on home soil, the former Chelsea and Portugal manager proved helpless as Germany destroyed the South Americans. 30 minutes in and it was already 5-0 to Joachim Löw's side, with goals from Müller, Klose, Khedira and a double from Kroos silencing a horrified Maracanã. Yet throughout the first half, Scolari refused to make a substitution or change the team's shape, allowing Germany to continue piling on the misery. He would bring on Paulinho and Ramirez for the second half, but by then the damage was done. It also didn't help that Scolari picked a defensive squad for the tournament, omitting the likes of Kaká, Coutinho and Lucas Moura in favour of Fred and Joe. It meant Brazil's attack was brutally exposed against the toughest opposition. In the aftermath, the veteran coach admitted his mistakes to ESPN, declaring the catastrophic result can be shared with the whole group, but the choice and who decided the tactical lineup, I did. The person responsible is me. 1. Solskjaer's disaster. Losing at home to Liverpool is considered a cardinal sin by every Manchester United supporter. Getting thrashed 5-0, however, is a total disaster. Yet that is exactly what happened in October 2021, when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side received a hiding at the hands of Jurgen Klopp's Reds. So where did it all go wrong? Paul Scholes had highlighted United's problems on BT Sport during their lacklustre Champions League victory over Atalanta just days before. Solskjaer's 4-2-3-1 effectively became a 4-2-4, with his attack-minded quartet of Rashford, Greenwood, Ronaldo and Fernandes often leaving the midfield pivot of McTominay and Fred dangerously isolated. In the words of Scholes, if you do that against Man City or Liverpool, half-time it will be 3 or 4-0. Sure enough, the Red Devils legend was spot on, as Liverpool ran riot at Old Trafford. The Reds were 4 up by the break, with their fabled front three ripping through United's exposed midfields. Solskjaer would bring on Paul Pogba, but a red card 15 minutes later left that plan in tatters. To date, it's the worst defeat during the Norwegian's tenure in charge, and to many, one he was lucky to survive. So FD, those were 10 of the worst tactical disasters we can remember in football, but what have we missed out? Let us know in the comments down below, and perhaps we'll do a part 2. Make sure you're liked and subscribed to Football Daily with the notification bell switched on, and we'll see you next time.